Hello everybody, welcome back to Bass and Bonsai. Hopefully you can see this screen okay. So I'm not done talking about fishing reels today, right? So I thought I'd bring you guys along. I want to talk about Steez, or high-end reels in general, higher end, more expensive, like some of you guys have a hard time justifying to yourself that you need it or you just want it. It's like I've been told before, you don't need it, you want it, right? On the higher end you want to upgrade, or maybe you just need a new reel and you just spend a few extra dollars and get a higher end one. So in this video, I just want to talk real quick about the reels. I've been looking at mainly Steez reels, but then just how you would go about if you want to look at what's out there or a Steez and the different types, how long they've been making them. I don't know how many years exactly, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I want to say there's up to 10 different variations of the Steez bait casting reel that you can get. I want to say there was Gen 1 and 2, which are still very popular today. Like, they are still sort of sought after as far as still in like new condition in the box kind of thing. And then they went through a phase where they added more, I'll call it, got plasticky, kind of like the, I want to say, and they're still considered good reels, but I don't think they're quite as up there as what the first Gen 1 and 2s were. And then we jump into the T-wing systems, right? The SVs and the T-wing systems of what we see now. Now, I haven't owned every one of the different ones, but the simplest way is just go to Google search Daiwa Steez and start looking at images is the best way. So then if you find an image, which that one is like a custom one I saw that at one time was on eBay, it's not there now, but you go to eBay, is also a good place. Or you could click on one of the pictures that was from eBay and it'll, click on visit. It's going to take you there, and it's not going to take you to the one because it's already gone. Then you start popping up with all these other Steez reels that are used, or you can still get them new from, I think you can order them from Bass Pro. I don't even know if Bass Pros, you guys comment if the Bass Pro by you carry any of the Steez like up at the store where you can look at them, get them in hand. But they're definitely, there's a refinement. They take the refinement of a reel to the next level as far as just smoothness and all that. Now, a lot of people will argue that the Zillion, which is the newest version of the Zillion, is just as feels as good to them. But I don't know. Up at Rogers Sporting Goods, you guys heard me talk about them several times. Let me adjust my camera. I'm trying to get that glare off this computer screen, but I'm kind of recording the computer. But let me go back first. And I'll try to show you the first Steez I remember that I wanted anyway. And I want to say it's Gen 1, if I can find the picture. Let me exit out of here. So let me try to find. And I've mentioned it in my videos before, but for whatever reason, it seems to me, the highest speed gear ratio on whatever reel just tends to sell better, have a better, higher resale value than the lower one. But this picture right here comes from Tackle Tour. Tackle Tour is also another place. If you guys aren't familiar with this place right here, go to Tackle Tour, go to the forums, and you can sign up. You can get a lot of info there. Here's a tackle trap. Those guys are good. But Tackle Tour themselves, the web site, has a lot of info on a lot of different stuff. Awesome place for knowledge if you just want to read up. You're bored one day, like we all are when we can't go fishing kind of thing on a weekend. We don't have anything else planned. Get you a fifth of Fireball and just start searching. No, don't drink. So this, like, when I think of the first original Steez, this is the one that comes to mind, in my opinion. It's just an awesome reel, worked good. I don't think I had this high speed. I can't remember. I've owned one of these, and it was crazy light for the time, palmed good. Still palmed, in my opinion, kind of big, but was a very good reel. If you guys can look at the handle, I never did like the handle on the first Gen 1 or 2 Steez. You'll see that, and you're like, that. But back then, I guess it was okay, but almost any reel nowadays has a better, I don't know about quality, but better looking handle assembly than what the old Steez did. But as far as the shapes, the refinement that was done to this, awesome reel. So as far as I know, and I'm not 100, like this was back in, when they did the review on this was 2008. You basically had the TDZ, I can't remember what year they stopped making it, but then they had the Zillions here in the States, and those were kind of your high end. The Zillion was with the high end here in the States, and the TDZ over in Japan. Then they made the smaller Alphas and the Pixies and stuff like that, and they made some others throughout here and there, but those were kind of your main flagship stuff, right? You hear that word used a lot, flagship reel. And something just tells me, and it may not be true, that they just kind of did away with the making magnesium Zillions, and so dropped the TDZ, and they came up with the Steez. You know, it was basically something that didn't even exist on as far as high-end Daiwa stuff. If you wanted a high-end Daiwa reel, you basically got a Megabass, right? If you guys remember the whole TD Ito, and the guy that is in charge of Megabass worked with or for Daiwa, and then went out on his own, and still has, he's in cahoots with Daiwa because he gets their reels and does you know, basically customizes reels. It's like getting a Daiwa reel from a custom shop is what a Megabass reel is. So I think in order to keep from trying to keep refining that TDZ and compete with the Steez, they just kind of quit making those magnesium. They switched their efforts to magnesium on the Steez, and then they made, you know, still made the Zillions as being the workhorse reels overall. But I may be totally wrong on that. So they went through a generation or two of these, and then they switched. And I honestly don't remember. I'm not very good at years. I barely remember how old I am. I'm 51, by the way. But anyway, that's just because I had a birthday. They switched to the when they came up with the SV. I think they switched a little bit on the Steez, and I just remember hearing the buzz going around. A lot of people didn't like, a lot of guys, the Steez guys, Daiwa guys, didn't really like the newer one. And I don't know if I can find a pic to show you. Like, if you remember the Daiwa Steez SS or whatever, those I don't think are, I think they're good reels. They're just not what older Steez was. So then, you know, like they do now, like they're doing now with the limited and the limited shallow spool. Back in the day, they switched. They had two different. When they finally decided they were getting ready to do away with that platform, basically, they came out with this reel. They came out with two different ones of their limited ones. You can get this, and we're on JDM Tackle Heaven now. If you guys never been there, check them out. I hear they're legit. I don't know if I've ever ordered anything from them. But they came out with this reel, and for the longest time, these knobs were selling like hotcakes. Like, it was a love-hate deal. A lot of guys would buy this reel, love the reel, but didn't like the knobs, and they'd sell the whole handle assembly, a lot of guys, because I think it was short. I think that was 80 or 85 millimeters. But anyway, and you can still find these reels. And then they made another version. There was basically two guys they had to do like a custom version on these other than like Megabass kind of thing. And I'm not even going to get into Megabass right now. If you know, search Megabass Baitcaster, there's a lot of different versions of the Daiwa that Megabass is custom made. But where's the other? I know I can find a picture of it pretty quick. So before they went away from that platform and went to the T-Wing system, I know I can find, I think it's right here. It was on eBay, and you can find a lot of this stuff still on eBay today. Both of them I think you can find. And I think if you punch in Steez TN or Steez Limited, yeah, see, here's one. This one's probably going to be scratched up or whatever. Maybe not. So then here was their other version of the... Yeah, see this one. See that? That's what I heard about both these. I heard that both of the limited versions had bad, like the paint was not, the finish wasn't as tough as the original Steez finish, basically. And Megabass is notorious also, just so you know, if something is black on a Megabass reel, it's probably going to flake off. If in the few reels I've had, their black paint basically is just known to not hold up under, you know, regular fishing use. But these were actually, and they had, I think, two different versions of this also. There were, the first batch came out and sold so well, they basically just kind of sold it like this. I don't even know if it was limited, and this may be what this one is. I heard those weren't near as good as the original also on that. So then, let's go past all that. So we're out of the old Steez, because I definitely know I do not want an old Steez. And now, in all honesty, the only reason is because they palm bigger than what the fill I like. They could shrink down the first and second gen Steez reels and the TDZ Zillion, you know, magnesium. Shrink it down to where it palmed more like what this newest Zillion 1000 does, and I bet you they could sell those like hotcakes over the T-Wing system reels. Just my opinion, maybe not. So then they came up with the Steez SVTW, right? It's still magnesium. There was no, there up till the Steez A, in which there's a Steez A2 out right now, you could not get an aluminum Steez. They were all magnesium, and I guess some guys, I don't know, I guess maybe they picked up the rap that they were more finessey, which they weren't. A Steez is it's just an all-around everything reel. Like a Steez reel, you can use it. It's refined, but it's made to use. So I wouldn't have an issue with, for how I fish, buying a Steez and thinking that something's going to fail on it. Now the newest one, the CTSV, a smaller magnesium framed one, that one you may not want to push the limits on, but heck, I had the Aldebarans, the Shimano Aldebaran, 2006, 15 and 16, and whatever the MGL was, 30 from Japan. I've used those things for, you know, chatterbait, 15-pound test, frogs, all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't have any problem with taking the standard Steez, which should be this one right here, go to Wired to Fish, just to look at pics. If I can. So then, I don't want to manage my privacy. I'm a YouTuber, I have no privacy, right? Look at that reel. Let me get out all these stupid things. What is all that? Ads by Google. I can't get a good pic for you guys to see of that because it fades off in the top. So, very classy, you know, awesome looking reel. I guess some guys, this reel popped up because some guys still had a love-hate relationship with the T-Wing system, right? The T3, if you guys remember that reel, Google T3 and then T3 Air, but that was like the first T-Wing type deal, and it was nothing like what they are now, other than the overall shape of the T-Wing stayed the same, but how it functions is totally different. The old style was it stayed in one fixed position on the T3, and the hood opened up and let the line come up out of the line guide self, and then let it slide back and forth from the wider part. And then when the hood went down, it forced that down. Well, with certain types of line braid and stuff, they were cutting in, so it took them a while, and they actually had that sort of fixed. Problem was they had that was a plastic reel. They never made that, or, you know, graphite or whatever they called it, but they never made it, and it didn't make it to production in aluminum. And a lot of guys just did the whole, I guess it was kind of jinky feeling. I liked the way those palmed somewhat, but they kind of just, that whole thing popping up and down was kind of weird. You basically push the button, you know, and we'll talk about that later, but you push the button, it popped up, and then you pushed it down by hand, I think, as you palmed it. Like, it was just, it did not sell good, it didn't last long, but a lot of guys swear those were awesome casters. And I think that's where the whole SV 1016 SV spool was born from, is that T3, I believe. I'm not 100% on that either. But anyway, this reel came out. Awesome reel, performance, everything. Nobody could really knock that it just flat out worked, and was a step up from the older, original, you know, Gen 1 and 2 Steezes, right? So then they came out with, because a lot of guys just still swore that they needed something that was tougher, more durable. Well, also the fact they could make them cheaper by making them out of aluminum. So they came out with the Steez A, and then now there's an A2 that was just released. So the Steez A, let me just type that in so I can see one easier. Type in the letter A. Look like, if you don't really know Steezes and aren't paying attention, they look a lot like the frame, the exact same shape, size, not weight. They are going to weigh more because they are aluminum. Here's one second hand. We're at Ichabod Tackle. That's another place right here. Look at that right there. Ichabod Tackle. I don't even know how you pronounce that. But you can go there, and they do sell used reels from time to time. So like right now, they do have a couple of actual used ones. 270 though for this one. We'll just click on it till we can look at the pictures. I'm not really trying to advertise it for them. Now this was chewed up a little bit, so it's got scuffing and stuff. I definitely, myself personally, I wouldn't buy that for that much money. But as you can see, it looks, it's a color and the coating. I heard the first batch of these, or maybe even the first gen of the Steez A, the paint is not as good as the original, and stuff like that. And you can, but if you just throw them around, no reel has a very great finish for that. There's a few reels over the years that have stood the test of time of just being tough, like the titanium coated ones, the KVD reel from Quantum years ago, the Aurora reels from Revo. The side plates and stuff tend to take quite a bit of abuse without getting the old Quantum Tour. I think it was it the Tour, but it was kind of a blue reel. They would last. So anyway, then they came with the Steez CT. Let me jump back here. When they came out with the CTs of a couple others, basically, so they go down from a 34. All those have 34 millimeter spools, and as far as I know, every Steez, I want to say every Steez except for when they came out the CT SV, have a 34 millimeter spool, and they will interchange. I want to say the first gen there was one Steez that wouldn't. It was a, but I could be wrong on that. But if anything, there was one that wouldn't. But all these newer boost spools will all interchange with each other and that kind of stuff. Except for this newest one. Let me find it. Here's a good pick. From Japan Tackle. Another place. I'm kind of showing all these places where you can go if you want to find one. Now it says it's out of stock, and it may be completely out of stock, I guess. But yeah, they're completely sold out. Now here, their cost was $413. You can't find them a good one like new for under $500 now on eBay. Let's just go to eBay. If we can find one from eBay. Let's just go, here's somebody's shop. This guy has a lot of good stuff. So right here, yeah, he's got what looks to be a good Steez A, and then CTSV. I've been looking at this one. Now, feel free, if you guys want to buy this one and save me from worrying about maybe buying it. This one looks very good, and I will explain. If I were to buy the CT SV for an all-around reel, I would probably buy the higher gear ratio, because they don't make it in a 7. They make it in a 6:3 to 1 and an 8, whatever that is. I want to say, is it 8 to 1 or 8? 8-1 to 1. So 8-1 to 1, and I think a 6-3 to 1 is the only two options. And when you're dealing with small spools and only 6-to-1 ratios, keep in mind the very long cast, that's going to go down under, even below that. You're talking going to be into the 6 or 5-8 to 1. which is still doable, but that makes for a pretty slow speed reel. The 8-to-1 with a smaller spool will it'll feel more similar if you're used to like say if you're used to a regular 34 millimeter spool with the 7.4 7.5 to 1. I think an 8 to 1 is probably going to feel more like that, in my opinion anyway. But these are very awesome reels, and they do come with the drag clicker, and that's another thing I forgot to mention about. Let's go back to his shop. The Steez A also comes, it was the first Steez as far as I know that comes with the drag clicker. And these are also good looking reels. They all look good, but good working. This would be, so if you were wanting to get a Steez nowadays, I'd say any of the old ones are still going to be good workhorse reels, and I think you can get this in a actual cranking 5 something. But the A would be your workhorse reel, but it's going to be cheaper, and it's because it's aluminum, and it's definitely, I don't know if you could call it a lower quality. In my opinion, anything magnesium reel and aluminum reel, the magnesium is a higher quality reel than the aluminum, even if they're made exactly the same, just because it is a, I don't know, it could just be me. But still a very awesome reel. Been thinking about getting this one or the this one, but there's to date there's no boost spool as far as I know. You guys comment if you've heard rumors. I know they'll make one. I just don't know when. A boost spool for these smaller, you know, for probably eventually all the Daiwa reels. So, do you need any of these Steez reels? No, you absolutely do not need these. You don't need any reel over $100, honestly, to get out and bass fish. Now, some of you will say, "Oh, I want it to last." Well, you can buy $100, $150 reels that are going to last probably as long as you're going to want them to, before they're going to be so old and, you know, thrown around in the boat or whatever, that to where you're going to be ready to upgrade anyway. They're still going to be working probably. So it's hard to justify, like, well, do you get one anyway or not? I will probably end up buying one or two or none. Now, I'll probably end up with one of these Steez reels. I'm just not sure which one. So at the moment, the bang for the buck would be the Steez A, in my opinion. If you're thinking about trying a Steez, and even if you wanted to try a real cheap deal on a Steez, track down one of these. Somebody somewhere's got one of these all beat up. They'll sell you cheap, I'm sure, and it still probably works just fine. Just to get your hands on one, see, you know, what they're all about. If you think the extra refinement, just the precision that's went into making these is supposedly a notch above any of the other Daiwa stuff, which even the other higher end, the Zillions and some of those, the Alphas are very good quality reels, right? So, and I've had, I want to say I had one of these. I just can't remember. I know I'd never went out and fished it. I bought it kind of like the Salamander, and I'm pretty sure I did some bench testing, right? And then I decided somebody offered me whatever for it, and I sold it. And because if I remember right, and I've told this story before, even on a live stream, that mag seal bearing, I could swear I felt a slight resistance in this Steez A compared to what I thought a Steez should feel like in the older Steez I had. The kind of like I talk about now, these Metaniums and the Aldebaran 22 I had, the Shimano's having a resistance. I could have swore the reel I had a slight resistance that I just didn't like for the money I paid, and I got offered basically what I gave for it, so I sold it. I honestly kind of wish I would have just kept it and at least fished it, because I probably could have sold it for what I gave for it after I had fished it half a season. That's one thing about a Steez, if you can find deals on them, and if they're good shape and you keep them in good shape, they'll usually sell for as much as you gave for them. And if you hold on to them long enough, a lot of times a Steez just goes up in price. Now they have to be kept in as good a shape as you had them. Like if you buy a brand new Steez or even a used one that doesn't show much wear and you just go out and beat it up, you're not going to get your money back out of it. That goes with any reel. But Steez definitely hold their value on any of, I've seen the the A's, the regular one, and the new CTs. Well, the new CTs right now, they're selling, or trying to sell them for more than what they cost. New, so there's always that. I don't even know what, if a reel is known for, kind of like a new car, the minute you take it out of drive it off the dealership, they go down in value. Well, Steez is usually have a year or so where they may go lower, and then they usually only go for about what they were originally sold for. So I'm pretty sure, and don't quote me 100%, but if you have the original first generation Steez, especially the red ones, the high gear, the 7-to-1s or whatever, and it's still like new in box, I'm pretty sure you can sell those for more than what they cost new. And it's only been, what, 10, 12, well, maybe 4, maybe getting close to 15 years old, something like that. And these little dudes right here, it's hard to find one. This one looks to be perfect. But they're wanting basically more for it coming from Japan than what they sold new for, or still selling new for in Japan, but they're out of stock everywhere. And so that leads me to believe, I don't know if they're planning on some change with these, coming out with I imagine this is going to come out in a boost. It'll be one of the first little bitty spools with boost will come out in the Steez, and it'll be crazy pricey, I'm sure. So anyway, that's my dilemma. Now, I know this is a Steez video, to Steez or not to Steez, right? That's a question. But here's another question. So let's say, just as far as other high-end reels go, you could go with the Zillion, which I have 2 of them. I'm selling one just so I can try out different stuff. Then you see, as I've already searched here, and we'll just search, let's do the Metanium first. Oh my God, what happened? I'm just going to use the one word, because there's also other Metaniums out there. The older Shimano Metanium is still one that I guess I still recommend as being an awesome reel. Palm's kind of bigger than I like. And then the old school MG7 Metanium, that reel is still an awesome performing reel. It's bigger, bulkier, more like tank type qualities now. It's basically what the D7 Chronarch is. It's the same, pretty much the same reel. The old Metanium MG7, the 2013, and then the 16 Metaniums are still very good reels. But then the newest one, they've got a new shallow version. I would buy one of these if they came with the drag clicker too. The shallow one. The there's the older one. I was going to try to find one. The trick to the 2016, it is just kind of like the Zillion is probably ended up being. That silver paint does tend to get scratched off by people not watching, and there's one there that's all chewed up. So you have to be careful if you want a good, like new or close to new. Look at the pictures real well before you try to buy a used one. Or get somebody to send you pictures. Don't listen to them telling you, oh, it's good. Doesn't hardly have any scratches. Hardly any scratches. Could look nasty. So let's go. The Metanium, I'll be honest, up at Roger Sporting Goods, I was trying them out and different stuff, is actually off my radar now. And I'll just put MGL. The Bantam, even though it's a heavier reel, just palms better, in my opinion, looks better, and should have close to the same performance. I'm not as worried about overall casting distance as just a good solid reel. They both should be very close in that department. I was going to try to find some good picks. You know what? Let's go, where was I? To Steez or not to Steez, but let's just look up the Bantam in here under Google search on pictures. So should I put just It should bring all of them up, I would think. And I guess I'll give you a quick rundown. The newest one just came out, the 22, and it's going to be a darker looking reel. The easiest way to tell those on the side plate. The newest one, which is this one, if you guys can make that out, it has an extra little cutout down here. It's a way darker reel. In person, they're easy to tell apart. But some pics, people have crazy lighting on it to where the new one looks brighter than it is, and then they'll have dark pictures where the old one looks darker than it is. But the easiest way is right here on the side plate. See that little cutout right there where my cursor is at? And I'll pop a picture up. The old one does not have that. It is a lot shinier. That side plate is almost looks like it's just aluminum with the clear coat painted on it. To where the new one is definitely a darker, if you can make that out. It's definitely a darker finish. Like that part is darker than the rest of the reel, I think, and it's got the cutout. Easiest way to just at a glance look at that side pick and you instantly know that's the new style, and the one you just saw, silvery looking one with the extra, or not the extra cutout, that's the old one. Subtle differences. I'd recommend go to the reel test. He compared both when he got his new one in, of the what difference, and there are some differences, but overall they're going to both accomplish the same thing. This is a tank. The new one's a tank. They are also a reel, kind of like the Steez A. Should be more bulletproof than the Steez A as far as built with that basically 3 pieces. There's no true side plate. The actual part that pops off here for the to adjust your magnets, there's that piece, the main frame, and then that other side plate. There's not the extra side plate with the internal magnetic thing bolted to it. It's all it takes 3 pieces instead of 5 basically to assemble that reel. So, and the metanium is supposed to be built that way, the new one. So they should be bulletproof. I've heard guys complaining about this thing being just how hard it is to open and shut, and the O-ring on, because there's basically a O-ring gasket type thing here to seal it, kind of deal. And I've heard that those can either break or be an issue. So it's probably something you need to keep some kind of oil that doesn't degrade your the rubber O-ring. But definitely the newest one, just because I went up to Rogers and I put that new one. I didn't think I'd like the darker one, but when I put the darker one on that carbon line, I was like, oh boy, that looks good. It just looked good, palmed good. It's heavier than all of the others I'm looking at, but it palms smaller than any of the others I've been looking at. It palms, I want to say better, not as small as, if you guys know the Corrado 70 series and the Corrado BFS, and there's a bunch of reels based on that smallest kind of frame. I call it that it palms better feeling than that reel, but not quite as small, but like it's right there. It's definitely, you can't ask for a more comfortable reel to palm if you palm your reels than that. Either one, they're the same frame, either Bantam, the 2018 I believe it came out, or the newest 2022 right now. And you can go look, there's different reviews. The reel test, I want to say RX Angler and several other guys. I can't remember his name, but there's a guy that actually, well, he claims he's not biased towards any, but if anything, he's more biased towards Daiwa. And he compared, the Steez A to the Bantam and this and that. And, of course, his pick was the Steez A over the Bantam, but I know if you ask a Shimano guy, he's going to pick the Bantam over the Steez A. Daiwa guy is going to pick the other one, right? I think they'll both accomplish the same thing. I think the overall easiest one to use, hands down, is the Steez, in my opinion. The Bantam, just by this side cover and the dial and the fact you got to go in to adjust those brakes, because if you guys aren't, I guess the whole, you guys know the deal with the dial and the SV system, right? Which is in the Steez, not the A, but you can put a SV spool right in the A if you want to use it for that. But it's just a Daiwa braking system in general, even if it's not an SV, tends to be more adept, in my opinion, in doing, it's not going to maybe get you the distance you want. If you're wanting long bombing stuff only, then maybe you would think about. But I think the new boosts are right there with any of the Shimano reels, in my opinion, especially for heavier baits. But if you wanted to get, just an all around, in my opinion, the best all around are still the Daiwa braking system because it's more forgiving than any other ones, in my opinion. The next one, honestly, would be a toss-up, in my opinion, between Shimano or a lot of reels coming with that dual. They have the centrifugal, 4 shoes that pop in and out, and the magnetic system. If you can tune those right, which mostly usually ends up being you put one of those little arms or 2, one across from each other, rubbing so that they're for the beginning of the cast, and then you set your magnets. You fine-tune the adjustment with the magnets. They're usually they're kind of all the way through the cast, but they really kick in about midway towards the end, and then towards the end. And so I think those are actually, like, I've never had a bad one of those reels. If I go in there, and I usually end up the way I cast, I just turn one of those on so I can cast hard, and that's kind of where I think the Steez and the new Steez Limited has the boost spools, and then this Zillion SV Boost. I think that's what the boost does for that Daiwa system. It lets you cast super hard to where the centrifugal thing would normally be at its max like pressure because the force is pushing it, putting so much pressure on against one that's rubbing on. It has to slow this. It starts slowing the spool down, but that lets you cast crazy hard. And the boost is designed to where that spring, it's stiffer than the other one that's in there, but when you cast that hard, it forces that inductor, the rotor, out more into the magnets, and it slows the spool down. But it lets you get that extra surge, that extra hard cast, where if you don't have that, if you just have centrifugal only, and you got the centrifugal brakes set to where you can cast that hard, the problem is then they kind of tend to drag you down the rest of the cast, throughout. And where if you have just magnets only on a fixed type system, and you get them set that hard for a hard cast, then they drag and they choke up the cast. To where the dual braking system with the centrifugal and the magnets, or the dynamic magnets like what are now coming out in this the arc reels, this Arise reel coming from AliExpress, or the Shimano BFS stuff, the FTB stuff. What that lets you do is you get that extra hard. When you cast hard, the magnets move towards what they're working against and slow it down, then they come back. And that's where the Daiwa's always had that, spring, but it's usually, with that one stiffness, it kind of limits that somewhat. But now with the dual stage, I think it gives you that extra little edge for that super, because I don't think it'll help you one bit for any normal casting short distance, but it's that extra, you turn, you see something busted up, and if you cast as hard as you can, you might be able to hit that spot. But then with a lot of normal bait casters, that's the minute you backlash because you cast too hard. And I think the Zillion, with the boost, or any Daiwa for that matter, there's several now. I think the Steez A Hyper Long Cast comes with the boost spool. The Silver Wolf, I believe. The Zillion HD. Both of the Steez Limited, the regular and the shallow spool, have the boost. So they will let you kind of have a little, makes it even more worry-free than it originally was. Alright, so to Steez or not to Steez? I don't know if I could Steez unless I have the option of that boost spool. I'm telling you guys, I think they're really onto something with that. I think that it'll be more refined. Maybe even add another spring if possible to give it a 3-stage, in my opinion. But after seeing this initial casting on the Arise, they may be onto something, because even these guys could do it. It has basically a fit. You can adjust the rotor, but it's a fixed inductor or rotor. And some Daiwas come like that, but most of them have the spring that goes into the magnets. Well, these have the magnets almost similar to the Shimano FTB, and then So there's so many settings. You have 40 turns on this dial plus times 3 basically, right? So 120 settings, but then it's still moving like when you cast. So that's why I think this one's going to be an awesome performer. I briefly used it in the cold yesterday, and I think it's right there with my Zillion with the boost so far. I think it's going to be a good reel, but I think that technology, but Daiwa could do the same thing. They could basically go in there and adjust it to where they're, and they've had the 3D braking system. They could add that on their reels. They could do a lot of different stuff. They probably don't really need to, because what the reels do now, you don't really have to have anything else. They're pretty good. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here. Jerry, A2W would be awesome. A CT70 with a boost shallow spool. Yeah, the alphas, you guys have seen the deal with me and the alphas, the new alphas and the variants of it. It's a crazy, it palms very small, and I'm not saying it's uncomfortable, but there's just something about it. The way that top is still made, kind of like the old alphas, almost comes to a point, and as big as my hand is, my thumb, when I try to palm it like I would like to, because I like to put my thumb, well, I'll show you on this reel. I want to palm like this. I want to have my thumb, it always ends up about in the middle of the reel. And this reel's perfect for it, or the Zillion is perfect for it. Actually, the Steez A, or the standard Steez, feels good. The Bantam feels awesome also. The newest Alphas variants, the Salamandura, Gecko-Bigeon, and all those, I always end up here, and I can feel that T-wing coming across when you reel, so then I end up putting my thumb over here, and it feels like I just don't have the hold I need to have. I don't know, it's hard to explain. If you probably gave me all alphas reels to fish with, I would probably adapt to and get comfortable enough to where then it wouldn't bother me at all. But since I've only ever had 1 to 2 at any given time in my lineup, I can just always feel that when I get out there and start casting them. I'm like, oh man, I got to figure out where to put my thumb. And with all the other reels that I like, that I tend to find I like, I don't have, like the Zillion is a perfect example. Palm small, not as small as some of these little bitty dudes, but it's a very small reel and it's comfortable. My thumb, it's just, I got a grip, I feel like I've got a good grip on it for doing whatever, and it's comfort. So I've heard the CT, I have not had one in hand. Yeah, and that's what you just said, Jerry, what I was just thinking in my head. You said I think you will feel the T-wing on the CT Steez. I can't really comfortable with my Zillion. Love the casting though. You can't get comfortable with your Zillion? You got little hands maybe. Because it palms smaller than any other Zillion. It palms, I guess it palms as comfortable as the generation it replaced, but it palms smaller than those. Because those also palmed comfortable. The CT Tatula, the newer, before that, the Zillion 10, all those, they palm very comfortable, but they palm big. They palm bigger than the new Zillion. That Zillion 1000, which will mean the new Zillion HD, the Silver Wolf, or have the same frame. Very comfortable to palm, but you can feel the bigness. Just like this Arise reel. This Arise reel palms very comfortable. But I can feel it feels bigger than, say, even the Salamandura, these Dark Wolf Ultra knockoffs and all that. It palms just a hair bigger. I want to say that it's because this rides just a hair higher than what those other reels do. And you can make out it's kind of flat, like my thumb rides on there. And on these reels, my thumb actually sets out far enough, my thumb actually almost sets down and in there. But very comfortable reels. I would say the Bantam is probably my favorite for just the palming feel in hand. Then the Corrado, and then this thing, the Dark Wolf Ultra, which feels and looks just like the Corrado. It sets up just a hair higher, especially up in here, just a hair. The Corrado does swoop down a little more, but very comfortable reel to palm. but it's out there. It has this, and there's nothing for my thumb to catch on. The Alphas reels, just that way that design is, and I put my thumb there, I can feel it. And I think that's what I was afraid of also. But Jerry, if he has one, he's probably right. And that's probably why I don't want to get one. I'll waste my $500. I have to resell it. Is when I put my thumb up on that CT, I will go overboard. Basically, I won't have a good solid feel with that reel, even though it palms very small, and I'm sure it's comfortable. So I'd probably be better with the Steez. Standard, the limited, or the A. The A is a better deal. $265. Get one. It's got the clicker already. I can actually put it on. I'd probably put it on my 7-foot heavy. Yeah, and that's what it is. It's nothing to do with that reel itself, other than the fact that you do have the alphas, and that's the Zillion palm. It just feels bigger than the alphas. I think it weighs a little more, right? Or no, I think they're close in them. They're actually not far off in size or weight, but the makeup, it's more of a round filling reel, and that alphas is very small filling in hand, but it's just that the whole T-wing deal is what gets on me. Alright guys, I'm going to end this video, and thanks for coming along for the ride and just hearing me babble on about what I might want to get. And I'll be honest, my favorite reel has not been made yet, I think. Within the next few years, you'll probably see a reel pop up that I'll want, and I'll probably maybe think about then replacing my whole lineup. Even though I should keep getting other reels for you guys to check out also. And you can also get all kinds of custom stuff for Daiwa. That's one thing Daiwa has, and I just still don't know 100% why over Shimano, is just the customization that tends to happen of the aftermarket companies coming out with parts, right? Now, I know one of them is why is because a company can come out with a spool and they know they can sell it to more people because it'll fit so much more. So let me go back to that. So even on just the Steezes, you can, if you're aftermarket company, the drag stars, the the Shimano's have that as far as handles, wall interchange, but Shimano's are notorious for nothing interchanging. Like, it takes a certain Shimano before the drag stars will interchange. There's certain Shimano reels, just within a few years of each other, different makeups, that the drag star is specific to that reel kind of thing, to where Daiwa, basically once Daiwa went to swept handles and stars, everything interchanges. You might need the little block and the spring and that kind of stuff, but you can swap stuff around. Most of the spools, most 34 millimeter spools, will fit almost every other Daiwa that was, if it's made for 34 mil. Some at one time, and the Air is made with like a 33. The T3 Air has a 33 millimeter spool, I believe. There was a couple. I think there was a Steez made with a 35 millimeter spool, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Zillions had that crazy extra wide, like the Tatula, wider spool than normal, and they made a wide version kind of thing. But I think most of your overall 34 millimeter Daiwa reels, all the spools interchange. So if you're an aftermarket company and you make a drag star, you sell a lot more of them if they're made for the Daiwas. If you make the spools and that kind of stuff, is I just think part of what is probably gets it going, and why there's a lot of guys that prefer a Daiwa over a Shimano. And then maybe on the same aspect is why guys prefer Shimanos over Daiwas, is because they feel they're getting, with each reel that comes out, I guess in their mind anyway, they're getting better technology, because I couldn't basically just go buy the spool and have the same ability. I have to buy a new reel in order to get, whatever new designed SVS Infinity or whatever braking system, because it won't fit or adapt to the old one, to where, in all honesty, you could come down here and take, which I know for a fact, I watched Trey Harple, you guys know him, works on reels, Omega Custom Tackle. I'm not sure if he's in cahoots or he owns the place, but I know he does some of the custom chatterbait stuff and all that kind of stuff, makes baits for him and all that. But anyway, he did it in one of his videos, but like this cool aftermarket one, like, or aftermarket, customized type Steez deal, right? Or that may have been a certain edition, I think. Or Megabass ones, you find somebody's customized one themselves, or a Megabass version of a 34 millimeter. That boost stuff, you get a shallow boost bull, slap it right in there. Other than not having T-wing, you're still going to have pretty much the same performance out of that spool, of new technology and all that, in your old school, you know, let's just call it a rat reel. You got this rat reel thing going on, right? So here's the limited edition. I'll click on Tackle Tour again, show them off as I get out of here. Maybe. Where'd I go? Oh, shoot. I do not want to look at rods. This is not a rod video. You guys all know I have a big sexy rod, and that's all I need to know about. There we go. Limited edition Steez. This isn't the shallow version. I'm trying to look, see if they got a good... And man, I'll be honest, this reel does not look good in pics. I've heard it's awesome. I've heard it's one of those reels that it just doesn't take pics well. I heard it looks way better in person than when you're looking at these pics or in videos. So let's try to go... Let's go to YouTube. Let's go to Steez. I don't know if that'll show up anything. Okay, here's this guy. I'll pimp him out real quick. Punch Fishing. That's the guy I was talking about. If you want to watch a guy that has the both reels, and he still does. I think he still has Bantam and Metanium that he still uses, but in his mind, he likes the Steez A over, I think, both of those reels. I think he likes the Bantam over the Metanium. There's Trey Harple. Yeah, he's showing the older limited and the new one. He's got a lot of cool videos. If you guys don't know about him, go check him out. I was trying to... Yeah, this crazy person right here. No, that ain't them. Somewhere, where is it? Right here. Go to whatever that is and click on it. Oh no. Oh my god. Oh my god. Yeah. I have no idea what they're saying. Now, these are some of the best, like, pics. I know there's a haze there, but go to that and watch that video. That's the shallow version. That thing just looks awesome. I heard the hookup tackle called it a Mandalorian reel. But I can't tell if it's got a metal flaky look or not, even with these pictures and video. If it had a drag clicker, not that. I actually like the newer style. Yeah, but see, that looks more like a... I don't know what that is. If it had a drag clicker and a gold T-wing, I would already buy that reel. Now, I know I could get a gold T-wing, but I don't even know how much they cost. Do any of you guys know how much it would cost to get a gold T-wing? I don't even have any idea. I know Trey would. I could message him. Oh boy, look at that. Oh, dude, don't do it. Don't do it, dude. Don't. Dude, stop. Okay, anyway, I'm out of here. That reel is definitely on my mind. I know I could get the gold drag clicker, put a few gold pieces. That gold and that crazy Mandalorian thing would, I think it would pop. But then I would need a drag clicker, so I might have to spend 520. Then I might have to spend probably 20 to 40 for the gold T-wing. I'm gonna have to spend 15 for any given star I want. That other piece is like 10 or so for the spool tension adjuster, zero adjuster deal. It would look nice though. And then another, Jude. I'll have $600 for sure in that reel. And I guarantee you the Steez A for 260 will do just as much as that probably will. But that's got the shallow. The only way to get that spool, because it's anodized the way it looks right there, is to buy that reel. Or find somebody that's crazy enough to sell one after they buy that reel. But that's the shallow. Is that the shallow? I want to say that's the. Is that a S? I don't even remember if I think it's an SV shallow spool, right? So technically, it may not cast as far as you would want if you wanted a long cast, but you put braid on that, and it would be awesome. Yeah, Olivia wants to see my big sexy rod. I got it right over here. It's hanging up against the wall, and I think I'm gonna sell it though. I got the 7-foot heavy, and that's a medium heavy, and they kind of are doing the both thing. If you guys remember, I went out frog fishing with that the new Z-Man hollow bodied frog from Z-Man. I was using the big sexy, and I was pretty far cast and had no problem setting the hook on that thing. So that 7-foot heavy is the one I plan on using, the carbon light, for like frog, heavier jigs and stuff like that. I can't really justify keeping all these rods either. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Get out, go bass and bonsai. Stay tuned. There will be some casting videos coming up, possibly a fishing video. You never know. Not this Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday looks possibly legit for fishing. It could be in the mid 50s. This ice, I think, is already kind of melted off now, so yeah. Could be out there on the water fishing.